I hope you all are fine. Let's start our today's lecture. We have discussed the software development methodology. We have discussed different stages of that methodology, how we can make a new or develop a new software by following a systematic way. We have studied that, and we have studied different methodologies that we can use to to develop a software. In today's lecture, we will discuss the assignments task number 1 that is related to these topics. The scenario is given in your assignment. In the scenario, you have to develop a mobile based application. That is a company named as Best Fit Recruitment Services. The company name is that, and you have to develop a app that is working on the mobile. So that is a mobile application or mobile based application. You have to develop that. This application is about employer and employee both. The person who is hiring the employee can also use, and the employees can also use that app. So we have to consider that there should be two layouts, one for the employer and other for the employee. You are a part of team who has less knowledge or no knowledge about the computer. So you are the expert person who can develop a mobile application, but the people surrounding you are not well educated or about the computer uh, mm, knowledge. So you have to make an application that is easy to use, because you have to elaborate that working of application, and the user interface must be very easy to use, user friendly. Also, you have to explain each and everything in front of these people, because you have to convince them how this application will help them out. The developed application will be used when employee is not available inside the office. So we are not using that application inside the office. They can use that application when they are on leave, or they are not inside the office, they are outside the office, they are sitting at their home, they can use that application. Now, when employee is not inside the office, which task they can do or which activities can be performed by using that application? They can request an absence or a leave, and they can check their history and time off in leave applications. Now, they can check how many leaves they have availed and how much remaining, and is there any paid leave or the leave they can utilize for any other purpose. Some organizations have that rule, so they have to check also that, so they can check the status about their leaves and absentees, view their absence history, so they can also check in a working year or in a contract year how many days he or she was absent. So they can not only request for a leave or absentees, they can also check their history of the absences and the time of new absences. Now, managers can access following information. So on the other hand, the employer or the manager can do these tasks. They can approve or reject the absence request, view the past and future absences. If we are planning any occasion, or we can put over application before that date, and so they can check the future applications as well as they can check the past applications, and they can check the employee contact details such as phone number, email, and staff ID of that members. So they can, if they want to contact the employee, they can easily check their data and they can make contact with them. So they can do these activities by using that mobile application. Now, in the activity number 1, we have to do the following things. According to the scenario, team members and the manager have less knowledge about the computing and they don't know about computer developed methodologies. So you have to provide them the following guidelines, because we have to convey each and everything to the staff as well as to the manager, so they can easily use that application and they can understand the importance as well as the working of that application, how we are going to develop that application. We will guide them. So first of all, we have to elaborate the difference between the application software and the system software. First, we will explain that what is application software, then we will tell them what is the system software, and then we will elaborate what are the differences between these two softwares. Then we have to do the evaluation of software development methodologies. So we have to explain the methodologies to that manager as well as to the staff persons that we have discussed. From these methodologies, we are going to choose that specific methodology. So we have to tell which methodologies can be used and why we are choosing that methodology for the mobile application development. Also, we have to explain, you have to explain phases of software development method. You have chosen a methodology, then you have to explain which phases you are going to implement during the development of that application. So these assessment criteria is related to the learning of 1.1, 1.2, and 1.3. Already we have discussed these three topics. Now, in activity number 1, if we explain that the learner will produce an easy to use reference guide which explains. So we can say that we are creating a user guide that are mostly available with different applications as well as with different software. So we have to produce an easy to use reference guide which explain in details the difference between the system software and application software. That is a kind of report in which we are explaining each and everything. Now the explanation will include visual aids to show some of different uses. So we can use different diagrams through which we can explain the difference between these two softwares. Then the learner will produce a balanced evaluation of different software methodology and should research the latest technique available in the current practice. So as on daily basis, there are different changes are made by the developers of computers. So we have to research or we have to check either there is any latest technology according to our current scenario and according to our need. Is there any more suitable technology that is methodology that is available inside the market? So we have to research that, and then we have to check which of the methodology we are going to use. Then we have to do the evaluation, which will include the work on the effectiveness of different methodology, and judgment will be made. Now we will discuss or we will explain to the manager as well as to the staff what are these methodology, how these methodologies are going to work, what are their plus points, what are their negative points, and then you will guide them in their situation which methodology will be more suitable for them, and then you can make the judgment either that methodology is working best, will do the best working for you, and as well as the organization are not. So we have to make a judgment or a choice through different methodologies. The learner will produce a comprehensive explanation of all the phases of software development. You have chosen a methodology, you have to explain each and every phase of that methodology. Like if you have chosen agile model, you have to explain all the phases of agile model, and you have to implement all these phases according to their application. Like in stage number 1, what are you doing related to that application? You will implement that with a chosen methodology to your scenario. The learner should refer to the recent research to ensure that their explanation use the latest technology and best. So you can explain them these are the latest technology that we are using. Like we are not, for example, if you are only explaining the waterfall model and you are saying that that is the latest model, that will be not a relevant research. So we have to search that either the research or the chosen methodologies or the explained methodologies or the recent research are not, and you have to tell them you are using the latest things for the development of their application. Now in 1.1, we have to explain the difference between, in activity number 1, we have to in the first part we have to explain difference between the application software and the system software. So we will revise these topics briefly. If you are feeling any difficulty, we can discuss that. Now, application software is type of computer program that perform a specific personal, educational, and business function, like that is relevant to the end user. That is not specified to the system performance or for system use. According to the need of the user, users are using different type of software that can be related to the education, that can be related to the business work, or that can be used for the personal use. Like if we are if one person is a graphic designer, they have he or she will use the different software like Corel Draw, or different software can be used by him or her. So according to the need of the user, we are installing different type of softwares on our computer. These type of softwares are known as application software, that are not related to these softwares are not involving in the working of our system. Each application is designed to assist end users in accomplishing a variety of tasks, like making a document, or making a software, or generating any finance sheet. So according to the use, we can do different tasks by using the application software. The most common software application platforms are used by millions of people every day. Like MS Office can be used by millions of people. That is very popular software, application software. They are designed to help with the specific tasks, simply workflows, and improve the communication across the team. Like for the communication purpose, we are using Instagram, Facebook, and different other things are using we are using. But as a app, we are using WhatsApp, and different other messengers are using. These are the softwares or application software that helps to communicate with each other. Like Skype is a software. Now, the Microsoft Suite, Office, Excel, Word, PowerPoint, Outlook, etc., is an example of application software. When we are talking about the browsers, Firefox, Chrome, Safari, Internet Explorer, that are used to search something from the internet. So whenever we want to communicate with the different websites, we have to use the internet browsers, and these are the examples of browsers. Communication software like Slack, Skype, Zoom, and Teams. These are the different communication softwares that we can use. Now, the system software, that is different from the application software. Like application software is helping the user, but the system software is helping the system or the computer to do its work efficiently. The system software is responsible for the basic functionality of the computer, as well as if we want to add extra functionality inside the computer or inside the system, we have to install different type of system softwares. And if we are not installing the system software, our system will not be able to do the work. So system software can be designed as the software in such a way that so that it can control and work with the computer hardware. The system software is communicating with the computer hardware, and the application software is communicating with the system software to do any task. And the user is communicating with the application software. So there are two layers between the hardware and the user. First of all, we are giving the command by using the application software, and application softwares are giving that instructions towards the system software, and system software are giving these instructions towards the hardware. By using these methodologies, we can easily use the computer. If we are directly communicating with the hardware, we don't know the language of the hardware, so it will be very difficult for user to communicate with the system. So these are the software that helps user to do their work. It acts as an interface between the device and the end user. So that is a layer or a helping hand between the user and between the hardware. It also provides a platform for running of other software. If we want to install any software, use any software, it will help us to do so. Now, examples of system software are operating system, antivirus software. Now, you have to guide. That was task number one. Now you have to elaborate what is main differences between these two softwares, how the system software is different from the application software, or how the application software is different from the system software. So you can make a table, or you can give different points, and you can use different diagrams through which you can explain the difference between the application software as well as the system software. That will be the task number 1 in the activity number 1. Now in activity task number 2, we have to tell what are the different methodologies that we can use to create different type of softwares. So we have to explain that. First of all, we have to explain that what is software methodology. Software methodology means the method through which we can make a software, or we can develop a software. That will be a sequence of steps, and by following these sequence, we can make a effective system. So we have to use software development methodologies to make overwork easy. So it is blend of design philosophies and realism that stretches back to the early days of computing. So from the early days, we are using different type of methodology. The goal is to provide a systematic approach to the software development. If we are not following a sequenced way, we don't know what to do in the next, and we cannot assume how much time will be utilized, how much team members are required. If we are not doing the planning and in the advance, we don't know how much time is required, how much budget is required, how much members are required, it will be very difficult to complete our tasks. So we have to arrange each and everything before start of our work. So for that purpose, the different developers have designed different type of methodologies. By following these methodologies, we can make a effective software. Why to use? It needs to be stressed that it's crucial to choose a software development methodology and apply it with discipline throughout the project. So it is a difficult way, because we have to study each and every methodology, then we have to choose one of them, and then we have to study how we can implement that methodology. That is a difficult task, but still we have to use that. Why we are using that? Why we are doing that difficult work? Because there are numerous risks when you are taking software development methodology for granted. We are not choosing any methodology and randomly we are doing our work. So there will be a lot of risk for the loss or the failure. Without structured guidance, developer can suffer from the customers even ever-changing request. They will not be satisfied. We are not signing any agreement with them. We are not making a communication time to time. We are not displaying the things to them. So whenever we are giving anything, or we are delivering our software to the customer, they are requesting the changing. And when we are making that changes, they will not be satisfied because we are not following any specific method. And even more so when there are miscommunications, because we don't know when we have to make a meeting or arrange a meeting and which points we are going to discuss in that meeting. So this leads to frequent revision in the software without considering the overall implementations of the project. So we have to choose the best from the given methodology. So if we are not using the methodology, the result was wastage of time, money, and effort, with risk of producing a subpar application that does not bring much to the table. So we will not be able to make a communication with the client, so they can again give us another task to do. So we will not make loyal customers with us if we are not following any software development methodology. So these methodologies are developed to benefit both the development team as well as to the customers. So both feel easy, because both on the both sides, they both know how the working will be done. Choosing the right one ensure that discussions are conducted on proper channels and decisions are made after evaluating all the factors, because we are following a systematic way, so everything will be smooth. Now in task number 2, in activity number 1, task number 2, we have to discuss the common software development methodologies that we are using day by day. We have discussed this methodology. Now we will briefly discuss these methodologies again. The common methodologies can be agile, waterfall, or iterative models can also be used. So there are variety of methodologies are available. Most of the methodology falls can be categorized as a waterfall, iterative, or continuous model. Waterfall is also a continuous model, and other models are also related to these models. These are the continuous model. A waterfall methodologies follows a fixed sequence in the implementation. We have to follow same sequence, and there is no going back in waterfall methodologies. Stages of development are defined in a rigid sequential manner. This model was highly popular during the early days of programming due to the certainty in the project scope. Because in at the start we have to discuss each and everything, and according to that we are going to develop a software, and without completing any task we will not move to the next phase. So we know which thing we are going to use, and if the software we already know the scope of the software, we can use that model. However, that is a rigid model, so its structure also contributes to high failure rate, because as the softwares take a lot of time for the development, after 3 or 4 months or after 1 or 2 years, when we develop that software, that will not relate to the current scenarios, current market. So there are the chances the customer will not satisfied, and in the end we are not communicating, or we are not welcome we not welcome the customer if they want to make any change. So at the end there will be a high risk of failure. The iterative model offers an alternative for the software development that's less focused on the rigid documentation but provides room for the revisions. So we can discuss different points with the customer, and if they demand any type of change, we can communicate with them and allow them to make these changes. It uses multiple sprints to quickly build and test ideas to ensure they are relevant to the user. So we are dividing our problem or project into the small chunks, and then we are delivering these chunk time to after some time, and if any changes are required, we can welcome them, and we can make these changes. So it will be convenient for the user as well as for the developer whenever we are making a little task at the same time. Like we have developed one like we in the scenario we have to develop a mobile application, and in the start we have divided all the tasks. First we will develop an interface through which our employee can send a request for the leave. So we will deliver that application towards the user, and if the user is satisfied or if the organization is satisfied, then we will add another thing in that interface. So we can also add the interface for the employer. Either they can accept that leave or reject that leave. After some time, and with time to time, we will add different functionalities in that application. So we have to plan that, and if any changes are required to make changes in the simple task will be easy. So Agile and Scrum are two of the most popular iterative software development methodologies. The continuous model is inspired by the Toyota production system. It is about minimizing the break or ensuring the flow between the different phases of development. Continuously, like we are working as a loop, like we have make different functions from our whole model, and then we are repeating each and every task or all the tasks on these functions. Then we are following that scenario in a continuous way. The goal of continuous software development approach is to avoid the wastage and improve the efficiency of various phases. So there are 8 popular software development methodologies. Now we will briefly discuss these one by one. The first one is agile. That is flexible methodology, because the waterfall was a rigid methodology. So we need a methodology that can be an alternative for the waterfall. So that is very popular methodology. Most of the people are using that methodology because that can give a room for the changes. So it takes different approach from the conventional linear method, that is a waterfall method. So agile focus on how to satisfy the user instead of documentation and rigid procedures. So we are setting the meetings with the user and we are facilitating our users, because the user is our first priority. So we have to check either our user is satisfied or not. So for that purpose we are using the agile methodology. With agile, tasks are broken into the short sprints that take about 1 to 4 weeks to complete. So as I told you, we have to divide our task into simple subtasks. It's an alternative method that involves multiple tests. As the development progresses, developer continuously seek feedback from the customers and make changes to the software. So we are setting different meetings to do so. The communication is priority in agile. So that can be, that communication can be between the developers, between the customers, and between the users. Waterfall development method, as that is a linear way to do the work. So in the early ages we was using the waterfall methodology. Still, when we already know about the scope and we have the time and we exactly know what the demand of the user, we can use that methodology. And if the developers are new and we have not experienced person inside our team, we can use that methodology. It's simple linear method where development stages are arranged in the sequence and cascading processes. So we have to follow each and every stage, and all the team will do a work at a time on a single work, do a single task at a time. So it will be easy to follow. So less members can follow these steps. The waterfall methodology is easily understood, which makes it popular for teams with lesser design experience. So as I told you, if we don't have the experienced person, we can use that methodology. Each stage must be completed before moving to the next. For example, all the requirements must be established before going to the design. We have to collect what are the requirements of the user. Just like how a water flows in one direction, we are going into the one direction, we are not coming back. This make waterfall non-flexible method and can be avoided for projects that demands the changings. Lean development methodologies focus on the different principles or different rules. It focus on minimizing the wastage and increasing productivity. We have to focus that we are not adding extra functionality to our work, and we have to make a effective model, a working model that must be a efficient model. With the guiding principle, developer avoid non-productive activities while delivering quality in their task. Like if we need a mobile application, the interface matters, but it not matters a lot. So we are not adding too much things in our user interfaces. We only focus that the user interface must be easy to use, because we are developing an application for the persons who are not well familiar with that computers. So we have to focus on that. We are not giving too much time to design a attractive or very colorful environment for a user. We have to focus that interface must be easy to use. So we are not adding extra functionality or extra menus or extra windows inside our interface. This methodology also emphasizes the continuous learning and fragment of the decision. So before taking any decision, we have to check all the alternatives, because our focus is that we have to make a productive model, an efficient model. So we have to wait before taking any decisions. We have to check all the alternatives and we have to take the best decisions from all these alternatives. It empowers team to keep an open mind during the course of development and consider all factors before finalizing any decision. So at every stage, the team can change their decisions or can change the scenario, because for everything we have to take a decision and we have to choose the best thing. With the lean methodology, developer are tasked to identify bottlenecks that could hamper the process. So we can check what the errors are occurring during the processing and what errors can become in the future. The goal is to establish an efficient system that works flawlessly. This methodology also emphasizes human respect with means of communication, and we have to welcome them if they want any type of change. Now, prototype methodology or model in which we have to generate a working model or a dummy model, and before going to the actual development, we have to improve that model until unless the user is satisfied with that model. Then we will convert that dummy model into the original model. So the prototype is available for the customer testing, evaluation, and the feedback. Based on the gathered feedback, the prototypes goes through the several iterations for the refinement until the customer is fully satisfied. The appeal of the prototype approach is hard evaluation that uncover possible issues before actual development begins. So the success chances are much higher, but it takes a lot of time to make a perfect prototype model before the start of our development. And we don't know how much iteration it can take. It can take 10 iteration, 20 iteration, 5 iteration, 2 iteration to make a satisfied model for a customer. So this approach success lies not only in the development team, but also how well they communicate with the customer in carrying out the test. So whenever we are representing our model, we have to convince them or convey them that that is not on the actual thing, that is a dummy model. So it's also worth mentioning that developer often bear the cost of building that prototype if our customer is not satisfied and they can not signing the contract with us. We have to bear the pain for that prototype. But on the other hand, if we are going to handle the same project that has the same requirements or same scenario, we can utilize that prototype for another project by making small changes in them. Rapid application development, it focus on getting product built in much shorter time. So we have to focus on the time phase. We have to choose different tools that can easily make the things, like whenever we have to develop website, we have to choose different tools that can make they can represent different interfaces. Our templates are available for the website. Only we have to put our content in that website and we can make that website. So when we have less time, we have to go on that development methodology. So that is a 4-step framework which is defining project requirements, prototyping, testing, and implementation. First, we have to get the requirements, then we have to make a prototype model, then we will go towards the testing, and in the last, we will go towards the implementation. Unlike the linear models, it emphasizes building on the prototypes with the given requirement and testing them out with the customer. So they are not making one prototype, they are making multiple prototypes, and at every step we are that prototype is the 80% working model of our actual. We are not generating a dummy model, we are creating a working model before going towards the development. So a little changes will be made when we are after testing, we are going towards the implementation. This is done through multiple iteration until the customer is happy with the results. Testing of the prototype results in the valuable feedback, which helps to eliminate much of the product risk, because we are presenting 80% of model in front of the customer, so failure chances are less. Using RAD leads to the high chances of successful product with release within the specific timeline, because we are using different tools that can help us to make software easily, so we can make our effective working in the less time. So it is often used the development tools that could automate and simplify the development process, but it sometimes make it expensive because we have to purchase these tools. Dynamic system model. The dynamic system model inherits much of the principle from RAD. This refined methodology is now in RAD, we are not focusing on the budget, but in dynamic system model, we are also focusing on the budget. So refined methodology is aimed at the prompt delivery and aligning project goals to the business needs. So it features four iterative phases of feasibility and business study, functional model, design and build, and implementation. So these stages are different from the RAD. Throughout the process, end users are greatly involved in providing the feedback, as also that is relevant to RAD. So we have to involve our customer. This reduces the risk of straying from the project's goals and requirements. So customer can guide us either we are on the right track or not. So that model also features detailed documentation, which is lacking in most agile frameworks. We are only focusing on the feedback of the customer. We are not working on the documentation in different agile models, but in dynamic system model, we are also making the documentations. Feature driven development, in that we have to divide our whole model, our whole project in different features, are different simple tasks or functions. Its goal is simple to prevent confusion that leads to costly rework, because we are dividing our task into the subtasks that can take 2 weeks. So the work is less, so making changes is also easy. So that sometimes mistaken, we are working as a feature but not, we are developing each and every feature, we are working as a function, or we are combining 2 to 3 features whenever we are going towards the implementation. In this model, we are breaking down the development activities into the feature list on the overall model, and then for each of the features, developer go through an iteration of planning, designing, and building. So and we can hire different teams for development of different features. We can assign different activities to different teams, so we can easily do that work. Typically a feature should take no longer rather than 2 weeks to. So whenever we are using the feature driven, we are dividing our task into the smaller chunks, and that can take 2 weeks of maximum time. So the result will be um, effectful and quick. This approach is meant for large teams, and information is communicated through the detailed documentation. So we need a lot of persons to do that or to implement that methodology. Now the next one is Scrum development, that have different team members, and or we can say that we are dividing our members into different teams, and each set of members are responsible for their task. One is responsible to decide which work is going to do. The second one is responsible for the communication, and the third one is responsible for the development. So every team is doing their work, and there will be no difficulty in the development of any task. So the Scrum is one of the most flexible software development methodology. It's based on the agile methodology. So it is incremental and iterative approach. It involves the product owner, Scrum Master, and development team. As I told you, we are dividing over all team members in different categories. The product owner takes input from the client and ensure that team is on the track and fulfilling all the client's requirement. Meanwhile, the Scrum Master acts as a facilitator and ensure that the team members are familiar with the Scrum process. He or she will guide them how they can implement that methodology. The team takes charge of executing the development. Now, what makes Scrum is ideal methodology is fast-paced environment in how tasks are executed in sprints. In all the methodologies, we have to do work in the sprints are small chunks, and each sprint takes 4 weeks. The speedy execution allow teams to identify the issues, introduce the solutions, test, and gather feedback in the short period of time. It makes tackling fast piece project easily, but also we need more members to do for the implementation of that methodology. Now next we have to discuss the phases of the software development methodology in the third part of our activity number 1. That methodology, our software development include different stages. These stages are planning and requirement gathering. Mostly methodologies involve these stages, but the criteria is different for the implementation. Software design, software development, test, and integration, deployment, operationalization, and maintenance. Now we will discuss these one by one. That is software development methodologies. The first thing is that we have to plan and gather the requirement. So requirement gathering is most important because all things depending on the requirements, because whenever we have to make the implementation, all implementation will be related to our requirements that we have gathered. So business analyst and project organizer do client meeting to gather all the requirements. We have to discuss each and everything, and we have to know what is demand of our customer, and then we have to make the planning or all the functionality according to their requirements. So in that meeting, we will gather the requirement like what to build, who will be end user, what is the purpose of the product. Before creating a product, a core understanding or knowledge of the product is very necessary. We have to know what is the scope, why we are going to develop that product. Then we have to define that requirement. Once the requirement has gathered, the next stage is that we have to make documentation. We have to refine that requirements. We have to make a summarized way. We have to summarize these requirements, or we have to list down these requirements as a functions or in way of do's that we are going to do in our implementation. So we have to make the refinements in the make refinements in our requirements that we have gathered during the meeting. This can be accomplished through the SRS software requirement specification document. We have to list down all these things in the document that is known as SRS. That embeds all the product elements to be created and developed during the project life cycle. Then that can be act as a agreement between the user and between the developer. So we have to go towards the software design. In that, we have to make a visual diagrams of our requirements. So we have to design the decisions regarding to the architecture and make of the software solution. So we are going towards a solution that is not the implementation, and we are not going towards the coding. Only we have to see that either we are going to make a mobile application, which type of tools are used, how we are going to solve that. Now after the requirement definition, now we have to check that how we can solve these, which tools are used to solve these activities. So this can involve creating design documents, coding guidelines, and discussing the tools, practices, runtimes, and frameworks that will help team to meet the software requirement specification and goals defined in the requirement gathering phase. Now we are going one step forward. Now, software development. In this stage of work, team builds the software solutions based on the designs decisions that we have chosen, like in that tool or in HTML language, we are going to make these things. So now the team meets the goals and outcomes set during the software requirements gathering phase by implementing the solution. Now the time is to implement these solutions using any language or any tool. The development process may involve team of people, new technology, challenges, how the development teams typically work with technical leads and product managers to unblock the process, make decisions, or provide the support. Because whenever we are implementing the things, different errors are occur, different challenges will come. This stage of work ends once team have packed and built their code. Now implementation or coding. Now actually we have developed each and everything. We have decided all the decisions. Now we are going towards the implementation or coding. In this stage, the extent development begins and the programming is built. Now we are going towards the coding. The execution of design begins concerning script code. We are converting over script or pseudocode into the actual code. Developers have to follow the coding guidelines defined by their management, and programming tools like compilers, interpreters, debuggers. These are different tools that we can use to check and implement our code. Now we have to test and integrate, because we are dividing our work into subtasks. Now we have to integrate, we have to combine all that work to make a single project, and also we have to make individual testing of each chunk, and then we have to do the whole project testing, either it is working according to the requirements or not. So in this phase, the software implementation is tested and assured the quality. Testing or quality assurance ensure the solutions implemented pass the standards for the quality and the performance. In all the situation, the software is working properly. This can involve the unit testing, performing integration, and end-to-end tested. So verification, validation, and reporting are identifying bugs and defects in the software solution. Then we have to resolve these bugs. Deployment in this stage of work, the software is deployed into a production environment. The work gathered, designs, developed, and tested is shared with the consumers and the users of the software. Now we are delivering our software to the end user and we are getting the feedback. This process involves the infrastructure within an on-premises or cloud provider are defining a software development strategy for delivering the changes to a customer if they demand any change. So we have to take time and we have to discuss how we are going to make these changes. Now the maintenance in this stage, the software is operationalized to ensure that now the user is using the software for a year, 2 year, for a month. Then if there is any issue related to the deployment, this stage of work can involve reviewing, understanding, and monitoring network setting, infrastructure configuration, and performance of application services in the production. If we are the customer is facing any problem, we have to help them. This process can involve in incident solution or management in the course of any issue or changes made to the impact a customer or user base. After some time, we have to make these changes. Every stage has its own role and every stage is important. So there can be some crossover or blurring of the lines in many of the SDLC phases, but the importance of each phase as a dissimilar element in the overall life cycle cannot be denied. So we have to focus or we have to work hard on each and every stage. Without a full analysis of customers' need or the requirements for the software or application, necessary functionality and needed features, design and development cannot be proceed because requirement gathering has its own importance. Without the accurate design work for hand, the software cannot be developed. So if we are not working on the design, development will not be easy. If we are not developing a software very well, we will not go towards the coding. And if we are going towards the coding without any good design, there will be a lot of errors and bugs. So every phase has its own importance. And if we are ignoring a single detail, we will face the consequences. So without being able to correctly test the software or the app, bugs could slip through that can be a hurdle in the operational ability and the stability. So it is interconnected. So all these stages are connected with one and other. So we have to focus on each and every stage. Now these are different command words that we have used in that lecture. In the scenario, I have highlighted these work like develop, difference, evaluation, produce, explain, differentiate, and research. So these are different words that are our command words. So we have to handle or we have to make the assignment according to that. Like where the develop word is used, it means identify, build, and extend a topic, plan, or idea. So we have to go toward the development or extension. And we can take the screenshot. So produce, make, create, or form something. So we have to make something like whenever they are saying that produce a mobile application, so we have to make a application. So explain, make something clear to someone by describing or revealing relevant information in more detail. So we have to give each and every detail, why, where, when, how. So we have to explain each and everything when there is a word explain is used. Differentiate between, we have to discuss the difference between more than one entity, item, product, object, or activity. Like we have to elaborate the difference between the hard application software and the system software. So they are the two topics we have to discuss. What are the differences between them? Research, we have to conduct a detailed study of subject like and software development methodology. We have to do the research. So in detail, we have to do all the research about a software development methodology, and we have to discover the new information or research a new understanding. If so according to your mind, if one thing is not explained in that, we have to give our opinion on that research understandings. Evaluation, we have to check the strength and the weakness. We have to give the points in the strength and in the weaknesses, why that is the plus point, why that is the negative point. Then we have to judge the evidence for the different perspectives and make a valid conclusion or reasons judgment. For every judgment we have to give the reason why we, or why the like if we are choosing the scrum methodology, why we are choosing the scrum methodology, what are their positive points, what are their negative points, why these are the positive points, why these are the negative points, why that methodology suits us. So we have to apply the current research or theories to support the evaluation when applicable. So we have to give different points that are already proved to say that, or we can say that different developers, or we can name the developers, and they said that that methodology has these plus points. Is there any issue in the lecture? Okay, then take care, have a nice day. Allah Hafiz.